What if Star Wars technology isn't slow? What if they already hit the ceiling? For decades, fans have complained about this. The galaxy far, far away spans 25,000 years of recorded history, and somehow the ships, weapons, and droids look basically the same across all of it. Old Republic Jedi fly starfighters that could pass for Imperial-era craft. Blasters work identically whether they're in the hands of Mandalorians 4,000 years before the Clone Wars, or stormtroopers patrolling the Death Star. Critics call this technological stagnation. They call it lazy world-building. They say George Lucas just wanted recognizable ships across trilogies, which, yes, obviously true, but that's a production explanation, not a story explanation. And the story explanation? The one that actually makes sense within the universe itself? They finished. The Star Wars galaxy isn't stuck. They're done. They climbed the entire technological ladder, reached the top, looked around, and discovered there was nowhere left to go. What we're witnessing across those 25 millennia isn't failure to progress. It's a civilization operating at the absolute ceiling of what physics permits. This isn't fan theory. There's an actual scientific framework for understanding exactly where the Star Wars galaxy sits on the spectrum of civilizational advancement. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. In 1964, while the world obsessed over the space race, a Soviet astronomer named Nikolai Kardashev was thinking on an entirely different scale. Working at the Sternberg Astronomical Institute in Moscow, Kardashev published a paper that fundamentally changed how scientists conceptualize advanced civilizations. His insight was elegant. The sophistication of any civilization can be measured not by its culture or philosophy, but by how much energy it can harness and use. The Kardashev scale proposes 3 types of civilization. Type 1 harnesses all the energy available on their home planet. Every watt of solar radiation hitting the surface, every joule of geothermal heat. The math works out to roughly 10 to the 16th power watts, 10 quadrillion watts of continuous power generation. Complete planetary mastery. Type 2 scales dramatically upward. They harness the total energy output of their home star. For a sun-like star, that's 4 times 10 to the 26th power watts. We're talking Dyson spheres, stellar lifting, engineering projects that dwarf anything humanity has contemplated. And then there's Type 3. A Type 3 civilization harnesses all the energy of their entire galaxy. 4 times 10 to the 37th power watts. Control over hundreds of billions of stars, black holes, and every other energy source scattered across spiral arms spanning 100,000 light-years. Here's where it gets interesting. According to a July 2023 paper in Nature's Scientific Reports, humanity currently sits at approximately 0.7276 on an extended version of the scale. Astronomer Carl Sagan developed decimal increments between Kardashev's original types to allow finer gradations. Our total global power consumption hovers around 18 terawatts. Impressive for a species that discovered fire only a few 100,000 years ago. But Type 1 status? Researchers estimate we're still a century or 2 away from reaching it. Now, the crucial insight that transforms this scientific framework into a lens for understanding Star Wars. Once a civilization climbs the Kardashev ladder to Type 3, there's simply nowhere else to go. Type 3 represents the ceiling. When a civilization can harness all the energy of a galaxy, they've run out of energy problems to solve. They've completed the technological tree. The fundamental capabilities required to achieve Type 3 status, anti-gravity, faster-than-light travel, stellar-scale energy manipulation, matter conversion, these aren't stepping stones to something greater. They're the destination. A Type 3 civilization doesn't stagnate because it lacks ambition. It stabilizes because it has achieved everything physics permits. So let's talk about where the Star Wars galaxy actually sits on this scale. The evidence isn't subtle. The Death Star's hypermatter reactor possessed the energy output of several main sequence stars compressed into a sphere roughly 160 kilometers in diameter. Destroying a planet the size of Alderaan required approximately 2.4 times 10 to the 32nd power joules delivered in seconds. That's roughly a week of total solar output concentrated into a single beam lasting maybe 2 seconds. And the Empire built 2 of them within a single generation. This wasn't a civilization-straining moonshot. This was a line item in the defense budget. That's what Type 3 looks like. Stellar-scale energy manipulation treated as an expensive but achievable military project. But Starkiller Base makes the Death Star look quaint. 30 years after Endor, the First Order demonstrated just how complete the galaxy's technological tree had become. Unlike the Death Star, which used an internal reactor to generate its planet-killing beam, Starkiller Base operated on an almost incomprehensibly larger scale. It drained entire stars. The weapon literally harvested all the energy from a nearby sun, causing the star to visibly shrink and disappear as its mass energy was converted into a destructive payload capable of eliminating multiple planets across interstellar distances. If the star being drained was similar in size to Earth's sun, the weapon absorbed approximately 3.8 times 10 to the 26th power watts, the entire output of a main sequence star, stored for a single devastating blast. This isn't innovative technology. This is the casual application of stellar-scale energy manipulation by a civilization that achieved Type 3 status so long ago that draining suns counts as engineering rather than science fiction. The First Order didn't invent anything new. They applied mature technologies at larger scales than previous efforts. This is efficiency optimization at its most extreme, taking the same fundamental capabilities the Old Republic possessed and pushing them toward theoretical maximums. A civilization that can drain stars for weapons doesn't lack technological sophistication. They've simply reached the ceiling of what technology can accomplish, and now operate exclusively within that completed space. But here's the thing. This pattern should look familiar to anyone who's paid attention to how technology actually works. Consider the automobile. Henry Ford's Model T rolled off assembly lines in 1908. A 2024 luxury sedan shares almost nothing with the Model T in terms of features, comfort, or safety. Yet both vehicles operate on the same fundamental principle: 4 wheels, internal combustion engine, steering wheel for directional control, brake pedal to stop, accelerator pedal to increase speed. 116 years of continuous development. Better engines, more responsive brakes, sophisticated suspension, countless safety features. But the basic paradigm? Dominant throughout. Electric vehicles represent perhaps the first true paradigm shift in that entire span, and even they maintain the 4-wheel, steering wheel, accelerator brake control scheme. The technology of automobiles reached its ceiling decades ago. Everything since has been refinement within that paradigm rather than replacement of it. The bicycle tells the same story. Diamond frame, chain drive, pneumatic tires, equal-sized wheels. That configuration achieved its essential modern form by the 1890s. A century and a half of engineering has produced better materials, lighter frames, more efficient gear systems, improved braking. The fundamental machine remains unchanged. Commercial aviation? The Boeing 707 entered service in 1958, establishing the swept-wing, podded engine, tube fuselage design that still defines airliners today. Attempts at radically different configurations have repeatedly failed to replace the established form, because that form represents a mature technological solution. Technology doesn't advance indefinitely in all directions. It encounters ceilings. Once the optimal solution for a given problem is found, everything afterward is optimization. The Star Wars galaxy encountered those ceilings 25,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. And that's when reliable hyperdrive technology emerged and spread across the core worlds. To grasp the scale of this timeline requires perspective. 25,000 years ago on Earth, humanity had just begun experimenting with agriculture. Writing wouldn't be invented for another 20 millennia. The pyramids were still impossibly far in the future. And the Star Wars galaxy already possessed faster-than-light travel. The Galactic Republic that formed around this technological achievement endured for approximately 25,000 years, a single, continuous governmental structure spanning more time than all of recorded human history combined. During this staggering expanse, the technologies that define Star Wars spread across millions of inhabited worlds. Repulsor lifts, enabling anti-gravity vehicles. Blaster weapons, converting energy into destructive plasma. Deflector shields, capable of stopping those same bolts. Hyperspace communication systems, allowing real-time conversation across tens of thousands of light-years. The galaxy contains somewhere between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. Millions of inhabited worlds. One of the most expansive civilizations ever depicted in any medium. What makes this early period so significant is what didn't happen afterward. The hyperdrive that emerged around 25,000 BBY operated on the same fundamental principles as the hyperdrive in Han Solo's Millennium Falcon. Blasters from the old Republic era function identically to blasters wielded by Imperial stormtroopers. Deflector shields, repulsor lift technology, hyperspace communication, artificial gravity, medical systems capable of regrowing tissue and replacing limbs. All of these existed in recognizable form from nearly the beginning of recorded galactic history. The technological foundations were laid down in the first millennium of interstellar civilization. Everything since has been efficiency optimization. Hyperdrive ratings improved steadily over millennia, with drive classes representing a performance hierarchy where faster was better, and improvements were measured in increments rather than orders of magnitude. The Millennium Falcon's famous boast of being capable of 0.5 past light speed only makes sense in a context where hyperdrive technology reached its fundamental limits long ago, and all that remained was wringing slightly better performance from mature engineering. Blaster technology refined from bulky, power-hungry weapons requiring external power packs to lightweight sidearms that could be worn on a hip without encumbrance. Shield generators shrank from requiring starship-scale installations to personal units worn as belts or integrated into armor. Communication systems evolved from massive transmission installations to handheld devices enabling real-time holographic conversations. Every individual technology improved continuously, but the underlying categories remained stable, because there was nothing superior to replace them with. Which brings us to the TIE Fighter. You've heard the criticism. No shields, no hyperdrive, no life support beyond a few hours, minimal armament. The conventional interpretation treats TIE Fighters as mass-produced garbage, flying coffins cranked out by a regime that viewed soldiers as expendable resources. This reading feels satisfying because it makes the Empire appear both evil and incompetent, while making rebel victories seem more plausible. But this interpretation fundamentally misunderstands what the TIE Fighter was designed to do. The twin-ion engine fighter operated as a carrier-based asset. An Imperial-class Star Destroyer carried a complement of 72 TIE Fighters, launching them into combat from internal hangars and recovering them afterward. The fighters needed no hyperdrives because their carrier possessed one. They required no extensive life support because missions typically lasted hours, not days. They carried no shields because Imperial Doctrine accepted that some fighters would be lost in exchange for overwhelming numerical superiority, and because removing shields dramatically reduced per-unit cost, allowing the Empire to field those overwhelming numbers in the first place. This wasn't short-sightedness. This was calculated engineering optimization, refined over millennia of carrier-based combat doctrine. Historical parallels illuminate the logic. The Imperial Japanese Navy operated on similar principles during World War II, producing lightweight, maneuverable fighters like the A-6M0 that famously lacked armor and self-sealing fuel tanks. The Zero outperformed its American counterparts in early engagements precisely because it sacrificed protection for speed and agility. Japanese pilots achieved remarkable kill ratios, not despite the Zero's vulnerabilities, but because of the advantages those design choices enabled. The TIE Fighter followed identical logic. Strip away everything not essential to the immediate combat mission. Maximize production numbers. Deploy in overwhelming swarms from capital ships that provide strategic capabilities individual fighters don't need. Baron Soontir Fel understood this. Fel rose through Imperial ranks to command the 181st Imperial Fighter Wing, an elite unit whose crimson-striped TIE interceptors became synonymous with excellence in starfighter combat. His kill count reportedly exceeded any other Imperial pilot of his era, achieved entirely in spacecraft that critics dismissed as death traps. Fell grasped something that casual observers consistently missed. The TIE fighter wasn't poorly designed. It was precisely designed for a specific role within a specific doctrine. Judging it against criteria it was never meant to satisfy reveals nothing except the critic's own ignorance. The Tarkin Doctrine, named for Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin, codified Imperial military philosophy around a core principle: rule through fear of force rather than force itself. Tarkin argued that rather than seeking qualitative superiority in every engagement, the Empire should project power through overwhelming quantity and the psychological impact of unstoppable might. The Death Star represented the ultimate expression of this philosophy. So did the TIE fighter. In straight-up dogfights, without shields, without the escape option of a hyperdrive, Imperial aces consistently scored kills against nominally superior Rebel starfighters. The Battle of Yavin saw TIE pilots successfully eliminate multiple Rebel fighters during the Death Star trench run. The Doctrine worked. TIE fighters died in large numbers because the Doctrine expected them to. The Empire viewed these losses not as waste, but as the acceptable cost of maintaining space superiority across a galaxy of millions of systems, where stationing a Star Destroyer at every potential flashpoint was impossible. This is what efficiency optimization looks like, applied to military doctrine. Not revolutionary new weapons, but perfected deployment of mature technologies within strategic frameworks refined over 25,000 years of interstellar warfare. Medical technology reveals the same pattern. Bacta tanks heal severe injuries, regenerate tissue, and save patients who, by any contemporary standard, should be dead. Prosthetic limbs achieve such sophistication that Luke Skywalker's replacement hand is functionally identical to biological tissue. Life extension exists. Characters routinely live past 100 while remaining physically active. These capabilities suggest a civilization that solved medicine so thoroughly they barely need hospitals. They need maintenance facilities. The problems are solved. The technology is complete. Artificial intelligence reached maturity so long ago that droids like C-3PO and R2-D2 are considered standard equipment rather than technological marvels. The galaxy contains billions of droids performing every conceivable function. Some droids rival organic beings in capability and are considered persons under law. Yet despite this sophistication, no AI singularity destabilizes civilization. No machine uprising threatens organic life. No exponential intelligence growth disrupts the social order. The galaxy figured out AI safety and alignment thousands of years ago and moved on. The technology matured. The problems got solved. Droids became furniture, ubiquitous, essential, and unremarkable. So here's what we're actually looking at. A civilization that achieved faster-than-light travel 25,000 years before their historical present. A civilization that can drain stars to power weapons. A civilization that has mastered medicine, artificial intelligence, energy production, and interstellar communication so completely that these technologies simply exist as background infrastructure. They didn't fail to innovate. They succeeded so completely there was nothing left to invent. When you max out a tech tree, you don't keep researching. You optimize what you have. Better hyperdrive efficiency ratings, more reliable blasters, improved shield harmonics, faster communication systems, small tweaks, marginal gains. The endless refinement of technologies that cannot be replaced because they already represent the optimal solution to their respective problems. That's not stagnation, that's completion. The next time someone asks why Star Wars technology looks the same across thousands of years, you have your answer. It's not that they stopped trying. It's not that they got lazy. It's not that the writers didn't think about it. It's that when you've already figured out anti-gravity, faster-than-light travel, stellar-scale energy manipulation, and artificial intelligence that doesn't destroy you, when you've solved physics, there's literally nowhere left to go. The Star Wars galaxy isn't a Type 1 civilization still climbing the ladder like humanity. They're not even a Type 2 civilization learning to harness their local star. They're Type 3. they finished the game. And everything we see, every hyperdrive improvement, every blaster refinement, every optimized shield generator, is just post-game content. Efficiency optimization in a universe that's already achieved everything technology can achieve. You weren't wrong to suspect Star Wars technology made sense. It does. The galaxy isn't stagnant. They're complete. Subscribe for more stories like this.